Hi, I'm Steve, and it's time to start saving the world. Now, a lot of you are going to be like, whoa, hey, wait a minute, that flag is way bigger than I remember it being, and I'm way more in frame than I remember him being. Well, that's because some of you may recall in my last video, I very astutely noticed this fact. I love the glare that I get in my glasses. So now we're here! Hopefully the glare is at least a little better in my glasses, and it's time to start saving the world. And you know, saving the world, we gotta get hyped up! Saving the world, that's a great thing! Let's get some goddamn caffeine in here, huh? Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I've recently cut caffeine out of my life, but then brought it back into my life because after not having any caffeine for about a month, I was like, you know, my life isn't any different. I'm not any more or less tired. How do I transition back into the video now? Everyone knows what a parrot is, right? Those loud, colorful birds that fly around in the jungles. The movie Rio and its fantastic, totally makes sense, completely necessary sequel, Rio 2, was essentially about parrots. But what if I told you that there is a flightless, nocturnal, not as colorful parrot that needs our help? It needs saving. Prepare to be amazed by the Kakapo. Native to New Zealand, the Kakapo eats fruits, seeds, and plants, and millions of years of isolation in a predator-free world made them just kind of forget how to fly because they didn't really need to anymore. So they just didn't. Their ancestors one day were like, hey, there's no predators here. Why are we flying? And then another ancestor was like, oh yeah, good point. How about we don't? And then they stopped. The same thing happened to the more well-known kiwi bird, also from New Zealand. And here's something that makes them even more different from other parrots than they already were. To attract mates, males inflate themselves up. They balloon up, and they make a booming sound. Now this is the part of the video where I have to admit that I may have a more biased opinion here. I have a personal closeness / affection towards the Kakapo because I knew they needed help before it was cool. It's still probably not cool, but nonetheless, I got this book in kindergarten. I was 6 years old. This book came out in 2004. And what do you know that's in this book? None other than, I passed it right here, the Kakapo! I read about this in 2005. Whenever I was in kindergarten, I knew the whole time! I also wrote a paper on them for extra credit in a science class my freshman year of college. So yeah, I care a lot about Kakapos. But if Kakapos are in this endangered book, and they're still in this Saving the World series, what went wrong? Who would do bad things to this cute little bird? Well, long story short, humans. Okay, I actually wrote this down because I know I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of this, but the Maori people about 700 years ago arrived on New Zealand, and they started hunting them for food, for clothing, and the birds became easy prey to the cats and rats that were brought to the island. Now, to be fair, the Kakapo has a very strong scent, and their defense mechanism is to stand completely still, which works if you don't have predators, which they didn't evolve with predators, but when the dogs and the cats and the rats came, standing completely still just made them easy prey. It didn't help them. Then in the 1840s, European settlers came to New Zealand and things got a whole lot worse for the Kakapo. They were hunted, their land, their forest home was cleared for farming and for housing, and hundreds were brought to zoos and museums and for private collectors, but most of them died within a couple months of capture. And by the 1870s, the population of the Kakapo was already plummeting. But unlike so many other cases, people actually noticed and they did something about it to at least try and save them. In 1891, a predator-free island was set aside for kakapo and kiwi, and conservationist Richard Henry moved over 200 kakapo to the island. By 1900, weasels had swam to the island and made easy prey of the kakapo, and they were all wiped out within 6 years. But they didn't stop there. For the next 50 years, there were several attempts to save the kakapo. However, sadly, most of them failed. In the 1920s, the kakapo became extinct on the North Island of New Zealand, and the population on the South Island of New Zealand was rapidly declining. By the 1970s, people didn't even know if the kakapo was still around. They didn't know if it was extinct or not. But then, in 1974, scientists located and observed several kakapo, and also in 1974, they recorded the mating booming thing that they do for the first time. Then in 1977, an estimated 100 birds were found on Stewart Island, a savior, a sanctuary, but then the cats and the dogs and the weasels came there too. And in 1995, the Kakapo Recovery Program was established. The goal was to establish suitable breeding islands that were predator-free for the kakapo. By the time the recovery program was established in 1995, there were only 51 kakapos in existence. 51! So, they were all relocated to predator-free and revegetated islands. Today, kakapo are found on 3 offshore islands of New Zealand: Anchor Island, Stewart Island, and Codfish Island, and they are still monitored by the recovery program. But there is good news! 2019 has been an amazing year for the kakapos! 30 to 50 chicks were born. It was the most successful breeding season in history. And several articles were published on August 19th, 2019. The kakapo population has reached 200 birds for the first time in several decades. There are 200 kakapo currently roaming on the earth, and that is, it's a milestone for the program, and it is a great sign for the bird's future. However, there is some bad news. An outbreak of aspergillosis on Codfish Island killed 7 kakapo, and 13 more were taken in for treatment of the fungal disease, and 1 seems to have made a full recovery. We'll see how that goes. Time will still tell. This is fairly recent. But there's more good news to counteract that bad news. We can still save them! Much like in my Sumatran rhino video, I have left several links in the description down below where you can donate, where you can read up more about kakapos, where you can spread the word, and just please spread the word. You can donate. I donated. It took less than 2 minutes. It was easy, and it's for a great cause. I hope I've convinced you to help out the kakapo, or at least spread the word about them. And one more motivation. Here's a picture. Look how cute. That's just like, it's the cutest thing. It's so sad that they're so endangered. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Make someone smile today. I hope you smile today. Bye!